Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we are looking at the planned BR changes for War Thunder to see what is going to go on in the game. Now remember, this is the first set of BR changes that will come out. Usually they modify these, so if you do have any suggestions or anything like that, make sure to leave your feedback on the War Thunder forum. I am absolutely full of cold today, which is why I sound weird, and also at the same time, we're going to be splitting these videos into specific ones. So this one will be the aviation video, and then later on we'll have a ground and fleet video for you to look at. Anyway, let's get into it. As always, if you enjoy the content, make sure to subscribe to the channel and also like the video. The Harrier GR7 is going up to 11.3 in realistic. I will be covering the realistic ones because that's mainly what I play. Not too much of a surprise here when it comes to the GR7. It's a vehicle which has a ton of bells and whistles to it and also a ton of defense. The only thing it's let down by is obviously its actual physical performance, like when it comes to its engines and how far it's able to maneuver. But this can also be worked around. So to see it go up in BR, not really a surprise. I thought it was already 11.3 if I'm honest with you, with its capabilities. But this thing is good in all game modes. So because of its, well, mainly its weaponry, but also the fact that it fixes a lot of the issues from the standard Harriers. There's also a ton of changes once again from the 9.0 to 10.0 bracket. This bracket has been all over the place for the longest time, and it looks like they are going to continue to make it all over the place, meaning that it's going to be one of the most volatile areas of jets. And this is mainly down to not just stuff like the A10, but also stuff like the Su-25, and also the fact that a bunch of things have countermeasures and a bunch of things don't, and also a bunch of things have crazy missiles but not great platforms, and a bunch of things don't, and they have okay platforms. Like, a lot of the older vehicles that were added to this bracket are just kind of unmatched. Like, this bracket really shows a lot of power creep when it comes to the game. So, the F-104As are going down in BR. They're going from 10.0 to 9.7. This is the standard F-104A for the Americans and also for the Chinese. I thought they were fine at 9.0, but then I played them before all aspects became more of a thing. At this BR, I understand they do have a lot of limited factors to them. It's basically a pencil with a 20 and 2 missiles to slow down targets. But for me, I kind of enjoyed playing them. The other F-104s are way better than them, apart from the C, obviously, which is basically the same. But generally, they are not too bad to play. I get why they will go down in BR though, because if people play them like you play a lot of other vehicles at the BR, then you'll just die. There's nothing you can really do about it. But if you play it how I see at least you're supposed to, you know, go to the side of the map, wait for the engagement, and then kind of use it as a dart to bang in and then go out and then bang in and go out and keep doing that, then it works very well. The problem with this though is your team might die before you even get there, so that is a bit of a problem. And I'm guessing because of even more of these vehicles being added to this area, which are seen as more dogfighting vehicles in a way, that is what's happening, so that's why they're going down. The Jaguar GR1 though goes up to 10.3. This is the GR1A, by the way. This has to be ground forces based because the vehicle itself, the Jaguars have a real issue in air, and the issue is their stock grind is horrendous. Like, I don't know who has decided that the Jaguar doesn't need missiles when it's stock, or doesn't need anything when it's stock, really, and you have to grind everything out. Whoever that is, you know, could you maybe change your mind? Because it's just a pain to be able to get this through. But once you get it spaded, it's kind of like the GR7 in a way. It has a ton of stuff to it. It has a ton of niceties, which make it really fun to use. So if you have a bunch of people with versions of it which are fully spaded, I get why, you know, they're doing really well, especially in ground forces. What I don't understand is the Harrier GR3 going up in BR to 10.0. Looks like, once again, British players showing themselves superior to everybody else, because the Aviate, which is basically exactly the same as the GR3, is not going up, and also the Aviate-C, which is basically exactly the same as the GR3, is also not going up. And and only the GR3 is going up, and I don't know why. The GR3 right now in the current meta is not good in air. In ground, it's okay, because, you know, you have the CCIP, you can come in, you can bomb stuff, and then you can kind of get out. The AIM-9Gs are really good missiles if people aren't paying attention. Basically, what I was doing with the GR3 more recently while playing it is a simple thing, because now you have to face A-10s, you have to face Su-25s, and you have to face all of the gong show that follows them. Your only choice in the GR3 is to go high and then hope that there are no semi-actives, which there never are because nobody ever uses them for some reason, even around these BRs. And then you just dive down on the enemies when they're spotted. You fire 2 long-range AIM-9Gs because they have long burn time. There you go, 2 kills because people weren't paying attention. And then you are basically just a vehicle which doesn't maneuver very well. And you can either get outmaneuvered or outsped. So it's a glorified missile tube at the moment. Or 2 missile tubes, I should say. So going up to 10.0 is incredibly surprising to me. Just because of the fact that, first of all, you have the other ones, which are, you know, the American versions aren't going up to 10.0, and they're basically the same thing. And then on top of this, once you are out of the missiles, you can't really do a lot. Like, you're not a barnstormer, you know, you can't carry games with it. And even with the missiles, there are many different vehicles with better missiles and also better flight performance. So it must be what it's being able to do in ground that's kind of pushing this up. But even if that is what it is, I don't think it's powerful enough to do that. So I kind of disagree with this decision. Then we have the MiG-19s. So you've got the J6A, which is the MiG-19 PT. You've got the MiG-19 PT and the MiG-19S. All of these vehicles are going from 9.7 to 9.3. This is not a surprise at all. A lot of people are going to look at this and they're going to be annoyed at it because of the fact that these are some very powerful vehicles going down in BR. Well, times have changed. The MiG-19 used to be very good. Now it's missile-based because it doesn't have any countermeasures, and also at the same time, what it also doesn't have is it doesn't have very good maneuverability at high speeds. Therefore, if missiles get launched at it, sometimes or a lot of the time, it can't maneuver away from them. So if you get caught out in these things, which isn't too hard to do, then you just die. When I played the J6, the MiG-19S, the MiG-19 PT, all of them were a little bit rough to play, mainly because of the compression issue when they are going at high speeds. Means that setting up kills and stuff like that is pretty tough to do, especially with vehicles which are more and more maneuverable nowadays compared to what they were before. They're still really fun aircraft to play, and they actually have moved down a lot of what would be classed as the old kind of 9.7s, so stuff like the F-100 and things like that are looking to, like, you know, go down and everything. So it isn't a surprise to see these things go down as well. This is just what happens when you add a bunch of vehicles at these BRs which have straight power creep to the ones before, where they just have better munitions, they have better missiles, and they actually have countermeasures. That's just what's happened to this BR. So it's crushed all of the old 9.7s, and now they're at 9.3 or even 9.0 in some cases because of what's gone on. So hopefully this doesn't affect the 8.7 bracket too much, because that's the main issue with doing stuff like this. But it's no surprise to me that these things are going down. Like, if you have a look at how strong 10.3s are right now, 10.0s are okay, but 10.3s are nuts. And then there's a bunch of 9.7s which are pretty strong as well. No surprise to see these go down, and then the previous batch of them go down too. The Banshee is going down to 7.7, not really a surprise at all. That vehicle was in a really rough place for the longest time, so it's just a vehicle that doesn't have enough engine power to be able to compete, especially if it gets into a lot of 8.7, 9.0 matchmaking. And since they moved down a lot of vehicles to 9.0, and also the 8.7s are still very strong, like the MiG-15 BIS, and of course the Sabres, it was getting into there quite a lot and just getting trounced. So it's not a surprise to see it go down. It's a very fun vehicle to fly, but if the enemy has a really big energy advantage, which a lot of the things did, which was fighting it, It's not a surprise to see it, suffer. I believe it wasn't always 8.0. And also the other Panthers, the F9Fs, may need a little bit of a look at as well. Mainly the F9F2 and the F9F5. Specifically. The Seahawks going up in BR, I actually played it when it was at 7.7. It's a really, really good vehicle. It gets into a lot of 7.0 matchmaking because of the SU9 and the SU11, the F80, the Meteors as well, and generally it's able to do pretty good. It's very maneuverable. It's got quite a nice set of engines on it. The Hispanas are really nice. I know a lot of people say that they don't like Hispanas, but they're good guns, especially when you got the upgrades on them. They work very, very well. Overall, not too surprising to see it go up. I think it'll go down again, though, because the 8.7 and 9.0 bracket is so volatile. And the vehicle steps in power are just way above it. Like this thing versus a MiG-15 Bis or a Sabre, like there's not a lot you can do in the FGA-6. You basically just look at them and hope. This also means that I believe it's at the same BR as the premium version, the Mark 100, which is just it, but it gets missiles. So once again, obviously British people are just superior at playing this game. What can I say? Obviously a joke. The R2Y2s, the V3, 2, and 1, they're all also going up in BR from 7.7 to 8.0. I mean, the R2Y2s in air have never been as good as they used to be, because what they did is they grounded them. They actually stuck them at they got rid of their air spawn, so they lost a lot of their kill potential. But at the end of the day, it's still a vehicle which is very maneuverable for how big it is, and still has 430mm on it. So if you go and wander around and drop the bomb on a base, and then the enemy engages in a bunch of dogfights, then you can just kind of turn up and back and blap people. It's still very good at that role. I think its main role right now, though, is actually in ground forces with the 800 kilo, because you can drop it on a target, and then you can basically, play as a air defense fighter. It works very well in that role. So to see it go up, I'm a little bit surprised, but not a huge amount, just because I know its potential is pretty big. The Tiger Cats are going down, so the F7, F1, and the 3, so the event one and the standard one. No surprise here, really. These things are always in a really weird state, the Tiger Cats, and also stuff like the Bearcats, because they're just that little rung below the Jets. So if they get a lot of jet matchmaking, which they will do because of the start of America and also the SU-11 existing, they're going to have a really tough time. If these things go up against propeller aircraft, they are insanely good and insanely fun. But if they just go up against majority jets, then they get trounced on, and it's unfortunate. The step between high-end props and jets is quite large, which is why in the past I've advocated for a wall between them. I still think it would be a good idea, by the way, to do that, but obviously that's long gone now. But we're going to keep seeing these different vehicles between 6.0 and 7.0 every update. They're just going to keep, musical chairing, because they just get put into that bracket of jets and get annihilated. The TAR 152 C3 is going up in BR. No surprise, it gets an air spawn and turns very efficiently and has really good guns. It's an incredibly good vehicle. It takes all the strengths of the standard TAR and just makes them better. So if you got rid of its air spawn, then maybe it would be able to stay at 6.0, but at 6.3 I think it'll be fine. It won't change at all. The F8F1 is going down in BR again. It's going from 5.3 to 5.0, and I've said this many times, I don't like how the Bearcat flies. It loses way too much energy in the turn. So this basically means that after 1 or 2 turns, you are pretty much dead in the water. Way worse than stuff like the P-51s, especially the H's of this world. So to see it go down in PR again is not a surprise. The only thing about this is this means that in ground forces, it can be used even more powerful with its really good bomb load. So that is something to watch out for. Its bomb load is incredibly good and that means that it can be a bit of a monster in ground forces. I kind of think this thing might go back up because of its ground forces stuff, but then again, there's a ton of other options for America at 4.7 anyway that you could use, so it won't really make a difference. This next part is slightly depressing. So the MB162 goes up in BR. I mean, fair enough. I mean, it's a bit odd that it's going up in BR. I always thought the MB162, it had issues when it came to its bomb loads. I thought its bomb loads were pretty weak, only being able to carry 2,000 kilos. But I'm guessing somebody's making it work. So seeing it go up, fair enough. People must be turning 90 degrees, reading a book, and then going to the bases after 5 minutes. That's the only thing I can think of. The T-18B is going up as well to 4.3. Not a surprise either. This thing is pretty much a monster at its BR. It's one of the multi-role vehicles that's incredibly good. It's also very good in ground forces as well because of its bomb drops and also because of its guns. So generally, these vehicles, the B-18s and the T-18s, are just really, really strong. And with the addition of, obviously, the Finnish stuff to Sweden, they're going to be used more in ground forces. Then we go into Bongo land. The P-47D-22RE is going down to 3.7. Why? We've talked about this many times over the last few BR changes. People have forgotten how to boom and zoom. People have forgotten how to energy fight, and the maps don't fit them. But this is ridiculous. This is completely ridiculous. This is Corsair ridiculous. This is absolutely insane. What are you doing? There's no reason to do this. 3.7 for a P-47 Razorback. What are you doing? It's just going to take over the game if people knew how to fly it. Then again, I was respading some Italian things the other day, and I was in an RE 2001, and I had a Corsair try and turn fight me instead of, just loop me and kill me. But yeah, still, come on! What's going on? We can't be doing this. We can't be doing 3.7 for a P-47D. It makes absolutely no sense. This thing's going to take over the game, not just in air forces, but also in ground forces. Put it back up. There's no need to put it at 3.7. The PBJs are going down as well. They're going to 3.7. The 1J and the H, I mean, that's fine. It doesn't really change anything. They're kind of derpy vehicles anyway, just because they're very heavily armed, but they're not really anything else. Generally, those vehicles don't do very well in the game, so not surprised to see them go down. The I-16s are all going up in BR. The I-16 Type 17, Type 28, and Type 27 all going to 3.3, following what I've been saying for a year and a half now. Everybody in Air Realistic just turn fights now instead of, playing properly. So you just get a bee's nest, and then if you aren't a good turn fighter, then you just die. Who's turn fighting I-16s? Who's doing that? Why are these nearly at the same BR as a P-47? The I-16's engine is so bad, and then you have a heavy amount of armament on top of it. All you have to do is just go upwards for 2 seconds, and then it dies, and then you just loop, and then bang, it's dead. Why are people not doing this? Why are we engaging these things in turn fights? Who's doing this, and why are you doing this? What happened to what happened to these areas? Because these vehicles are never used in ground. They're never ever used in ground because they just don't work as ground attackers. They're good air superiority fighters in ground, but that's not where they're being played. They're being played in Air Realistic, and for some bloody reason, people are turn fighting them. Stop it. Jesus Christ. The P39Q5 is also going down in BR because once again people are using it to turn fight. Stop it. This is ridiculous now. This is getting to the point of absurdity with these vehicles. As I've talked about this many times, the trend is energy/boom and zoom fighters going down in BR, turn fighters going up. But this is insanity when it comes to the actual powerful engines of these things. If you play any of these things, you should be unkillable. But unfortunately, people turn fight I-16s in them. So what the hell is going on? The last one for air is the Blenheim. It's going from 1.7 to 1.3. This is completely fine. It's not going to change the vehicle at all. I'd actually advocate moving the Beaufort as well. Both of them have very weak kind of ground ordnance. I actually talked about this like maybe 6 or 7 years ago when discussing the BR changes of these vehicles. They're always going to go down in BR because the heavy bombers just do their job but better. And also, at the same time, there are vehicles which can just top pen vehicles in ground forces. So Blenheims and things like that don't really fit in the game very well as these kind of weird pseudo multi-purpose vehicles. So they're always going to go down. And that's what we see when it comes to this vehicle. Just like a lot of the other ones that have gone down over the years, like the Ju-87Gs and other things like that. Anyway, that is the Aviation BR changes for November 2022. I mean, it's a mixed bag. I think that's basically the way to put it. Some positive, some negative, as usual. Hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd like to thank Forge, Siegebreak, Carrion Crow, Nicholas Richardson, Elove Goat, Pyman, Winter Scientist, Merciless Reaper, Orange Tail, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Moxie, B. Young, and also Sem Arslan, Wilkski, Uncle Bean, Derek R., Bareen, Lafouche, and Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.